Okay, can we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Patterson? Here. Commissioner Henderson?
Here.
Commissioner Burnett?
Here.
Commissioner Velasco?
Here.
Commissioner Harry?
Here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I trust that everyone here read our minutes from December 11th. Is there any comment? No comment. I will entertain a motion.
I so move.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Excellent. I love efficient meetings. Okay. Public comment. I received no notes, but we do have something fun to do, and that is to recognize Jim Davis. And there he is, our audience.
Like, look this way.
What's that?
I was looking this way.
Yeah. Okay, I have a resolution to read. It is resolution number 2019-01. You're the first resolution of 2019. How cool is that? A resolution of the Recreation and Parks Commission of the City of Santa Maria, California, recognizing James Jim Davis's retirement after 32 years of service. Whereas Jim Davis retired from city service on December 28, 2018, after dedicating 32 years to the City of Santa Maria, fellow employees, and the community, and random calls from commissioners. Whereas Jim Davis began his service on April 21st, 1986, as a recreation supervisor promoting his way to Park Services manager, and whereas Jim Davis was an integral part of the development teams for many impactful community projects such as the Paul Nelson Aquatic Center renovation, the Maldonado Youth Center, and the Buena Vista Park renovation, and much, much more. And whereas Jim Davis is well known across the city of Santa Maria for his willingness to help other employees, for his leadership and management skills, and for his friendly and open demeanor. And whereas Jim Davis not only served the residents of City of Santa Maria, but also served the victims of natural disasters across the United States as a volunteer disaster worker for the American Red Cross. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved by the Recreation and Parks Commission of the City of Santa Maria, James Jim Davis is recognized for his 32 years of dedicated service to the City of Santa Maria, the Recreation and Parks Department, and the community. The Recreation and Parks Commission and Department wish Jim and his family many years of adventure, good health, and happiness. So I will entertain a motion from the board. One motion. A second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. And the resolution passes unanimously. Yeah, in spite of what Alex said earlier, would you like to give us a few comments?
It's been a pleasure working with all the various commissions and council members over the years. Various staff. They've been very supportive and always looking forward how we could better the community and what can make what's in the best interest of the community. And with the leadership of Alex, for the majority of those years, him putting up with me, actually. He didn't have a choice. When he became director, I was already here. Been fortunate. When we came up, we'd just gotten married. And my wife, Tammy, and two daughters have always been there for me. And I've also done a lot of volunteer work, too. Always had 3 people ready to help, whether they wanted to or not. And appreciate all the friendships I've made. A lot of good people, and we've done a lot for the community, and you got a lot of good people working for you that are dedicated and put their heart and soul into what they do. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, I'd like to invite you to make any comments that you might wish.
All right, give me a few minutes.
So, it's hard enough when you are working in an organization that is pretty lean and mean, but it's extremely difficult when you have individuals like Jim and Ron before him and Teresa, who've put in so many years of service that that perspective that they have on the community and the department and the city in general, you lose that. Jim was always a good counsel when it came to how to look at things a little differently. We didn't always agree on stuff, but that's okay. That's kind of the role that we played with each other, kind of back and forth on some of the issues that we were faced with. But I think what the bottom line with Jim, and I put it in my agenda report, is that it was always get it done. That was his attitude. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If it was an assignment we were given, Jim would figure out a way to get it done. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that we've had those many years of friendship go along with working side by side across the hall from each other, in some cases, right out on the other side of the door from each other. Then finally I moved him out of the office so we could get some work done. But, it's you don't even begin to touch on all the things that he's done in the community with being involved in his daughter's sports programs, being out there as a Red Cross volunteer locally when we would go out and work on disasters together, the single family fires that we would have. And I just think it's an ethic, a work ethic and a quality of work that we just don't see anymore. I think Jim's a perfect example of that type of person who will do anything for a friend. And, so I'll miss him, But, him and Tammy have some great plans, and they deserve a break, and they'll spend some time together. Miss him more because he's not going to be in town. He'll be in Ventura, so when I call him, I'll have to be, making my way down that direction. But in any case, it's been a great 32 plus years, because really it's not quite accurate. A few more months were added onto there. But it's been great working with him, having him as a friend, and getting to know Tammy and the girls as we have over the years. So we'll miss you. Good luck.
Cheers. Any commissioners? Yes.
I just want to say thanks, Jim. It's, you were always a familiar face because I knew you before the Rec and Parks Commission through all the soccer stuff. So thank you for always being a familiar face at events and meetings, and for always answering our phone calls and our questions, and just always, working through everything that would come your way. Definitely 32 years is not something that you see very often, but again, Rec and Parks, just you see those long stretches of time from our employees, and it really speaks to the work ethic and the work of the department. So thank you, and enjoy your retirement.
Excellent.
I haven't had the benefit of knowing you quite as long as the other folks in the room, but since day one, you have been so welcoming and helpful. I've learned a great deal from you in my short tenure here on the commission, and you epitomize what makes the department so great. Your wealth of knowledge, as Alex said, the ethic that you bring to the table, and it's been a real pleasure to get to know you, and those are some big boots to fill, but hopefully somebody's up for the job to do that, and I wish you both the very best, and hope that you come up for some of our fun events and check in, let us know how you're doing, but all the best to you both.
Yes.
Thank you for being so welcoming. When I came on the commission and showing, doing the little parks tour, it was invaluable to me, and I love your expertise. I'm sure everyone's going to miss that. Thank you. You will definitely be missed.
Well, I'm going to make it short because I'm feeling just a little emotional right now. I wish you a great retirement. It's so deserving, but I feel very sorry for us that we have to go on without you. I'll miss you.
I will open it up to anybody else. Anybody else have any comments?
Let's put Ryan on the spot. Just kidding.
I've known Jim for 20-plus years now. He actually is the person that hired me, so I appreciate all he's done for me over the years as a friend, advice as far as family goes, kids, work advice definitely, but I appreciate more than just his, what he taught me at work, but what he taught me to be a father, a man, and things of that nature. I think he was a good mentor to me throughout my career, and I'm really going to miss that, and I'll definitely stay in touch with you, so thank you.
Well, I just want to echo, thank you for answering questions many times, and I appreciate both the tours that I went on with you around the town, and just, yeah, thank you for serving us. Thank you for being a servant of this community of Santa Maria, and that's why we're here, and thank you very much. And thank you for loaning him to us for 32 years. I'm sure there's been a lot of times you're like, no, please.
Funny story is, when I was offered a job, I went home and told her that I'd been offered a job and I accepted. And she said, we're not moving. I went, well, you know I'd applied. Yeah, but I didn't think I'd give it to you. A couple days later, she said, okay, we're moving.
That's funny. Well, again, thank you very much, and many happy trails.
Thank you. Best of luck to all of you, and I think you guys do a great job.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks, Jim. And certainly you're welcome to stay if you'd like to for the rest of the
You know the
agenda.
excitement.
I strategically bought Canada.
Thanks. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Tammy. Okay, we are going to go to number 5, new business, and we have to talk about transitioning a new swim program.
Yes, so what we would like to do is, for the past 20-plus years, 20 years I've been here and beyond that, we've worked with the Red Cross. The Red Cross has provided us standard first aid, CPR, AED training, in addition to lifeguard training and swim instructor training. Over the last, I would say, 10 years or so, the crux of them being involved with our community on a community, or grassroots level has decreased. They're more stationed now back in Washington, D.C., so the face-to-face contact we have with staff from them is very minimal, and that has made it harder, especially for our lifeguarding and swim instructor courses. The CPR, not so much, because that's more of a standard lay responder class, but the classes that have a little more in-depth or meat and potatoes to them has been a little bit harder for us to offer when we don't have somebody locally we can bounce ideas off, find out how long certification is, where we can get an instructor trainer to teach those courses. So over the last few years, we've been researching different options. A couple options have been we teach the classes on our own. We come up with our own curriculum, work with like Wayne King at Allen Hancock, or work with San Luis or Lompoc who have their own curriculum. But that's one thing we've kind of shied away from. So the latest we've come up with is Starfish Aquatics Institute. They've been around for just over 20 years. I believe they started in 1998 offering different types of aquatic programming. And what they do is, the good thing I like about this is right now the Red Cross, if we want to get somebody trained to be an instructor trainer, we have to send them to Southern California, Northern California for 5 days. The cost is pretty expensive when you consider the actual class, plus putting them up there, meals, things of that nature. With Starfish Aquatics, they will come to us. They'll come to us, they'll teach up to 12 instructor trainers at once, which is good. That training lasts for 3 years, and those 12 people can then teach other people to be instructors to provide us swim lessons to the community. So I think that's the biggest factor I see in wanting to change, is the fact that there's more checks and balances. There's going to be more quality with this program because they'll visit us every 3 years to update our staff, make sure they're trained as needed. And then our instructor trainers, who their certification lasts for 3 years, they can also do quality control checks with our normal instructors. Because there's basically 2 levels. There's an instructor who will teach the kids how to swim. Then there's an instructor trainer who will teach the instructors how to teach. So that's the 2-prong level that it includes there. The cost was another factor, although that's not the primary factor, in my opinion. The cost for Red Cross annually is about $4,596. For the Starfish, it would be 480 annually plus, 830 annually, plus every 3 years we pay $4,125 to have them come out here and provide us a 3-day session to keep our instructors up to date. So basically, in 3 years, it would total with the Red Cross to be about $13,788. And over those same 3 years, if we go with Starfish, we're looking at $4,125. So there's quite a bit difference between the two programs. And the one thing I did like about it and researching a little bit more is that the Starfish, they teach to a curriculum that they focus on the outcome rather than a checklist. They don't just check things off the box and say, you know how to do this, you know how to do this. They make sure that the participant can really swim those 25 yards or swim on their back, blow bubbles, hold their breath, things of that nature. So those are the things I liked about the program, and I think it would provide better continuity to our instructors and our participants.
Yeah, please.
So what we're asking the commission tonight is kind of to take a look at the information that Ryan provided you, ask him any questions that you might have. This is it's really an administrative thing, but because it is such a big change for us, we've been in a Red Cross organization for as many years as I've been here, so that's 40. And so to make a transition was not an easy thing for us, but I think it makes the most sense for us to move to something that's a little bit more available. I think that's the only real word we can use. I think we never had any issues with the Red Cross, the quality of the instruction, or the types of things that we were getting. The problem is there's just not the support locally as we've had in the past.
Yeah. Laura?
Thank you for the information. You answered a lot of my questions that I had going into this. I do have a couple of others. First, I like that we're using an organization that's going to be using current and best practices rather than, as you mentioned, other municipalities creating their own curriculum. So I like that aspect of it. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. When you say that they come to us and they can train up to 12 people, is that our plan to train more than just one person to train the others? Will we have a pool of people that are trained by those?
Well, typically we have 2 people who oversee the pools directly. There are 32 our employees. They would both become instructor trainers.
Okay.
Plus, we typically employ 14 to 16 staff who teach swim lessons. So our goal would be to get all those people to be instructor trainers, since they're offering up to 12.
Okay.
So we would do 12 at a time. So we do 12 this year. Then the new people that come on board, we can have those instructor trainers train our new staff who don't have the certification. So we would definitely take advantage of the 12, and we would get 12 and see if there's a way we could possibly pay for an extra 3 or 4 to be certified at the same time.
Great. And then are there any other fundamental changes to what we currently do as far as the swim classes? For example, like class sizes, the duration of the classes, the cost of the classes, or is it going to be pretty similar in that area?
The cost will definitely stay the same, because that's up to each municipality to come up with that. The curriculum will change, but the structure of how we offer swim lessons will remain the same. So they'll work with us with our program, and they'll come up with an overlay of how to transition from Red Cross to the Starfish.
Great. Thank you.
I noticed that was one of the things in this, that they would provide that. I was just wondering how much different is it? I mean, the basic strokes and kicks, I imagine, are relatively the same.
Hold your breath.
Well, the fundamentals of swimming are all the same: backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle, things of that nature. The difference is how you're taught, and the biggest thing with swim instruction is how you're taught to deal with kids. How you're taught to deal with the participants, just like coaching, is how you deal with the players on your team. So that's the biggest difference with this, and having somebody that we could contact directly, having them come out here every 3 years, because we haven't had a Red Cross representative come out here in, I'd say, at least 15 years to check on the quality of our swim instruction or our lifeguard training. So I think having that will be a huge plus as well. But the overall meat and potatoes of swim lessons is always going to stay the same. That's why, like, San Luis and Lompoc have come up with their own curriculum, because the strokes are all the same.
So my other question was, and you alluded to this, was that if we are separating from the Red Cross, there are other things that the Red Cross does, like AED training, first aid training, et cetera. So I know there's at least one organization here in town that teaches that. Who are we thinking of going with, or is there a plan for that?
Yeah, right now the break is only with swim instruction. We're still going to work with the Red Cross for lifeguard training and standard first aid and CPR. The availability for those type of instructors is pretty available. I teach it myself for first aid, CPR, Title 22. We have 2 or 3 people in our department who are lifeguard instructor trainers. The problem was, there was only, from what the Red Cross told us, was only one instructor trainer for swim instruction between Oakland, which is the area this lady covers, Oakland and Los Angeles, and that one person happens to be in our department, but she no longer works with aquatics, she now oversees the youth center and youth programs. So we do have that luxury, we have that person in-house, but to get her to commit 40 to 50 hours every year is hard. Where this one, they'll come to us, it's 3 days versus the 5 days, so it's a lot more impactful and quicker to get the training done as well.
Sounds great. Yes, please.
My first issue was, is this a for-profit group? But it's not. I looked it up. They're not for-profit, so I love that, that's a good thing, like the Red Cross or nonprofit. But it sounds like a win-win situation, because the beauty of it is they're all about aquatics. And that's, I think it'll probably add a huge dimension to our swimming program.
Yeah, definitely.
See that, yeah, they're swimming professionals. But I mentioned it to my son, who's today, and he's a SAR guy, a search and rescue guy, and he does all that stuff. And he said, the issue with the Red Cross is they're mostly, they're teach like kids that are going to be babysitters, or, it's not like an organization that would come and normally do our whole swimming program. That's not their focus. They have all these other focuses. So, it just made it really clear, abundantly clear, that this is a really good move for us.
I think so as well.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, definitely. It will be. And our goal was to start this in 2020. We've already programmed for 2019. We're having staff trained in Red Cross training to teach swim lessons. Our goal was looking a year out so we could plan ahead, find dates that we'll work with Starfish to come out here and instruct our potential instructors.
And look, how cute the sweatshirts are going to be, Starfish. I'm just saying.
Well, actually, I need to add to that. My little girl will love being called a starfish, especially since her dad never had swim lessons. So I'm really excited that she's doing it with you guys.
You do adults, right?
Yes, we offer adult lessons. We also offer therapeutic or adaptive aquatics, and that's another focus I haven't touched on, but they have in the program, they have a core 8 hours just dealing with how to deal with individuals with special needs, which is very important. Where the Red Cross, they offer the class, but they don't really touch on how to deal with those individuals.
Yeah. Well, as far as I'm concerned, water is for drinking and fishing, and I'll just stay away from having to swim. Any other comments? Okay. Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. So do you need an action? So the motion will be something along the lines of, we approve the proceeding with the transition to Starfish Aquatics
Institute, right?
Institute.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. You have our blessing.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay, I think now Mr. Posada wants to talk to us about our Santa Maria Prop 68 grant project chart.
Yes, so, thank you very much. We sat down with the Capital Development Committee and went through the list of parks and projects that were potential. We had a matrix developed by Baxter Miller, our landscape architect. That's kind of what you see in front of you now. We added a little bit to that matrix. We sat down and discussed The far right-hand column are the proposed improvements. These would be the items that we would look for seeking funding from Prop 68 at the park that corresponds with that line. So if we're looking at Adam Park, we're looking at the actual, this is the soccer basin component. I was looking at parking and lighting. Right now, there is no parking in that area. There used to be a parking lot at the bottom of the basin years ago. Wasn't very big, maybe 20, 25 cars. So one of the thoughts would be to do some redesign there and maybe putting back a parking lot. Adding some lighting, if not for the entire area, to at least add some lighting for at least one field. And then there are no restrooms there, and the idea would be to at least look at funding one modular restroom unit that would go in there to support that side. Right now, if you have to go to the restroom, there's either portables or you have to go to the school, and the school arrangement says, have been kind of flighty here and there, so then you have to go to Menominee Center as the closest restrooms. So that was one of the ideas, and we kind of just went down the list and looked at things as what we needed. Alice Treff's Park, which is actually the Muscle Senior Center, in putting those in combination. We're looking at a addition of a new structure there that would be a computer lab and fitness lab. One of the things that we've found out since the youth center opened is that the morning traffic is mostly all seniors. They love to come in, use the weight room. We had a few computer lab classes that they were taking part in, and so we're looking at maybe an opportunity to put a new structure at the center that would be adjacent to the building, easy to get to, and provide these opportunities to the seniors. We haven't done a new senior project since that building was built in 1982. So seniors have been much overlooked, and even though we've had our active aging group out there, the interest of seniors has changed dramatically from what it was in 1982, where it was a very sedentary group. Pool was the big program, social events, which still are, but there seems to be another group of seniors now who want to get out and, be physically active and, use a weight room or, modified program like that. We didn't look at anything at Armstrong Park specifically. Atkinson Park, we are looking at a proposal that would convert that to a turf field, which would be the artificial turf as opposed to the grass. It is a maintenance nightmare for the Parks Division right now. The use that it gets is, dramatic. Typically, you're going to get 10 years out of a turf field. I don't know that we would get 10 years. I would probably say we're probably lucky if we get 7 or 8 years out of it, just based on the amount of use that we have. But we'd be able to control a little bit more of the use on the field like that. It would make it an all-weather surface, basically. They could play anytime. We did the lighting upgrade when we reconfigured the lights, so it's kind of a great next step for that site and a very popular location there. Buena Vista Park, we don't have any suggestions, although we did find something out that I thought was kind of interesting. One of the things that was a positive during the construction project was the fact that there was a storm drain pipe that runs under the park, and we could drain our water right to the storm drain and go out. Well, we forgot that upstream from that was Shaw's Restaurant. And so when the fire happened, a lot of the water and ash and debris came up in the park through those same drains. Because the amount of water they were pumping, thousands of gallons of water on that fire, ended up in the storm drain, ended up in Buena Vista Park. And eventually ended up at Adam Park too, but at least at Adam Park we know that that's kind of the end of the route. So Parks Division had to do a little cleanup at Buena Vista surrounding that. And we did bring it up to the Public Works Department to see if there's a way to have some kind of an interceptor, put in that would just allow water to flow out and not in, but we'll see.
Was that mostly in the basin area or throughout the whole
It was in that general vicinity, yes, where the small,
basin?
basin thing is. Bioswale, I think is the official word for it. Let's see. The Enos house is in red because that is and it's not so much the house, but it's the park. So one of the elements in one of the funding was the barn project, is that, I think I mentioned to the commission that the Japanese community has expressed an interest in being involved in documenting their historical impacts on the valley there. So one of the grants through the resource agency is specifically to provide cultural education. So we think there's at least a link there, a nexus for us to make an application specifically for the barn project. We were running numbers the other day. That project, just the building of the barn itself, was about a $1.7 million project, which would give us about a 10,000 square foot building. And there's some sundry items to that, but so we're looking at making that one of the priorities for Prop 68 from the resource agency. So we have two funding sources, resource agency and state parks. So we'll go through there. Yes, ma'am.
And I know that's the cost. Do we run an analysis on the projected revenue that we could get from that?
We have not, and typically, we could easily, run the vets or something like that and say, here's kind of what our experience factor is on rentals. The missing item and when we do that kind of stuff is the freebies that people ask for, and the discounts and the things like that, in prior commissions, we've had the discussion that should we discount, who should we discount for, how much should the discount be, and it gets into a big can of worms. So typically, today is, if it's a nonprofit agency, they have a nonprofit rate in the fee structure. Is that right, Ryan? Right. And so they get assessed that rate, and it's about a 30% discount from what a normal member of the public would pay. And that's kind of the rule of thumb, but doesn't always go that way either. Sometimes you'll get special requests that we have to respond to. So I would say that if we use the vets as an example, it would be a new facility. Hopefully the garden area would make it much more attractive. The house renovation would make it more attractive. People would maybe keep some of their events that they're taking out of town now to barns, out in the county areas, might keep them here. So, I don't know. I would say you're not going to be looking at much more than maybe $80,000 to $125,000 a year in revenue, which keeps our costs. I mean, we try to collect our staffing costs and our supply costs. We don't ever expect to pay for the building because that's just not realistic. It just isn't going to happen. The opportunity for a grant or developer fees is really the way to go, when it comes to building a facility like this.
Thank you.
So that one's in red because I think that grant application is actually due in February. We are taking an item to council meeting next week that is asking them to delegate the authority to the commission for authorizing the department to apply for grants under Prop 68. Otherwise, we would have to wait for the council meeting agenda, and that agenda gets full and busy. So what we're hoping to be able to do is get something on your agenda, in a month, and then we can, because the problem that we have now is we don't know when the state's going to be saying your applications are going to be due on this date. They're rolling out the program as they can. I was surprised that there's actually a deadline coming up in February. So I'm going to Culver City next week, I think it is, to a meeting to get the details. But again, we'll try and bring those items to you. I don't think the council's going to have any issue with that. And the only caveat to that was if it costs any money from the city, then we have to go back to the council. But right now, there's no match requirement, so it shouldn't be a big deal for applications. If you look down the list, I mean, all of these are just things that we've talked about in the past. Excuse me. Probably the next big one would be the Miramonte Park remodel, which that's one of our busier buildings for being one of our smaller buildings. It's probably about 900,000 square feet maybe, and it gets a lot of use every weekend. It's a good venue for showers, not wedding receptions, baby showers and those kinds of things, birthday parties. So we're looking at trying to see if there's a way to mirror the room that it has there. The outside the restrooms are just poorly designed for an outside facility like it is. It's really more of an indoor facility, the way they've designed the restrooms. So doing some change-ups there. There was some talk down the road, or in the past, about adding to the tennis courts. There's only, I believe there's 2 courts there now. Maybe adding to those courts, or adding basketball. There's 2 basketball courts there now. So I'm looking at what we can do to add to some space, improving the parking lot again. Those are all little areas that, as you make the building bigger, you need a bigger parking lot, and, there's just some space there for that.
Adding to the tennis courts or adding to the basketball courts?
Both, possibly.
Because the basketball courts are in the building.
No,
No.
they're outdoors at Miramonte,
Oh, you're right, they're on the,
the west end of the
yeah,
building, yes.
that's right.
Just north of the tennis courts.
And we have 6 tennis courts there, because one of those is kind of a,
4 maybe? 2? Is it 2?
4 basketball hoops.
Yeah.
oh, maybe it's changed since last time I was there.
No, it's the same. You haven't changed.
Bad memory.
Manani has the 6 courts, so.
Oh,
Excuse me.
you know what, I'm sorry, I'm thinking Manami. That's what I'm thinking, okay,
That's the one that
got it.
Manani was reconfiguring the lighting system there to be able to accommodate soccer, maybe the elimination of the softball field there to again be able to accommodate soccer. I would say that in the last 4 or 5 years easily, I don't know that I know of any softball play there at all. So.
I've practice, but not.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that's an option that we'll look at.
I have a question.
Yes,
Sorry.
Please.
Hagerman Sports Complex reconfigured? Are we reconfiguring to add more fields or reconfiguring?
it's kind of the same thing, looking at a way to what kind of soccer can we fit out there? Is there a way to move some fencing around, give us a little bit more space to be able to do things like maybe an 11 and under soccer program, or a 5-on-5, a futsal facility, where we could do some futsal soccer there. The other thought that came up was using the area behind the snack bar that is completely void of anything, is maybe creating some usable space there. We just had a meeting about lighting, and the city is looking at a grant, or not a grant, a funding source through PG&E to do some relamping of all our facilities, and that includes bringing our sports lights to LEDs instead of to what we have today. So those are some options that we're looking at. So a lot of this stuff is just like ideas that the committee, what we threw out at the committee meeting, the committee agreed with. So if there's something that you would like to suggest, what I would like you to do is take this list back with you and mark it up and maybe give us some ideas, and maybe at the next meeting we can be a little bit more succinct.
Well, I have a personal interest in Manami because my boys, my young men are there twice a week playing tennis, and I know they've come back several times saying, well, they're doing soccer on the tennis courts, And I'm not putting that on you guys because they're just looking for a place to play, but then, well, there's only so many tennis courts in town.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and that's the problem. I think that one of the things that we have to deal with is the misuse of those facilities. It tells us two things. Number one, that there's an interest enough in soccer to have a confined playing space, which is really what, arena soccer or
Yeah.
futsal is, smaller format game, 4 or 5 players on the side. That's telling us that there's a need for something like that. And then us having to find the facilities for that to happen on. Tennis courts aren't the place, but, something like that.
yeah.
The NRPA magazine came out today, and there was a really good article in there about what we're discussing right now, which is underutilized spaces, like tennis courts that can be converted into
Right.
smaller playing areas. It's actually a really good article if you can go read it, but just on thinking of different ways to use space.
Well, again, it's something hopefully out of the leisure assessment that we're going to hear, what's out there. Tennis is, in this community anyway, has been pretty much in a decline since probably the 1980s. When we built Menominee, there was a tennis club, they were very active, they had an ongoing tournament between Lompoc and Santa Maria, and right now, probably the major user of our tennis courts was the high school, but now they've redone pretty much their courts. They really don't come over and use it very much either. We do still have a little stronghold of tennis players that are out there. A lot of those people actually have ended up out at the country club and participate out there. But our community use is, I say, dropped off pretty significantly.
Well, I know those people you're talking about. And we looked into the country club, but we can't afford it, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in Santa Maria that wouldn't.
Yeah, and the public courts are there for a reason. Maybe 6 public courts is too many at Menominee. I don't know. I think those are the discussions that we have to have. I think the successful transformation of Atkinson 2 courts to pickleball and a basketball court, right? We put a basketball hoop out there. That has been welcomed by the people that are out there. So, maybe that's something to do, making it multi-purpose type of facility. The conflict with soccer is that just the abuse of the court surface, it's just not designed to be that kind of play. Pioneer Park, there's an opportunity to expand the park by about 8 acres, I believe, to the south. Pioneer Park is shaped like a home plate at baseball, with the tip of that plate being south. And there's a whole area out there that's an overflow area for Fox and Woods development. And so there's an opportunity there. The airport district is interested in, our lease is up this next year at the park, so they want to know if we're interested in continuing the lease. And possibly expanding in the park, and the back area would remain even more undeveloped at this point, but it would just be another area people could trails through there. We do have a plan for a riparian area back there that we can bring forward and have the commissioners take a look at. It's actually a riparian area / art walk with art features along the trail. And people could go through and experience the art. And it's designed in such a way that when the water flows out of Fox and Woods, it would continue to flow through the site and out its natural path. So it's an interesting design. So that's an opportunity that's presented itself. North Prescott Ranch Park and Tommy Kuhn's Junior High School is another one. The high school approached us, or the junior high approached us and said, they're interested in a track for their students. We share the park / basketball courts, tennis courts with the school. So that's something that we will be putting together under one of the state park grants. It's one of the opportunities, but again, we need to get an idea of where we want it in our priorities. The school does have some money to put forward towards that, money that they've raised at that particular school. It's not district money, as I understand it. So there's some interest there. Paul Nelson Pool, we looked at a thing which is a solar grid, either looking at some options for solar there, either electricity or water. Again, with the meeting we just had today on utilities, there's a plan to do a solar array east of the city, and then have that array put power into the grid, and then the city would get credit for that on its utility bills. So if that happens, then that would probably eliminate the need for a solar array at Paul Nelson, at least for generation of electricity. The other thing is, in Ryan's office over there would be a complete remodel of the existing, of the old pool locker rooms. Right now, that's that rectangular building along McClellan Street, and actually to basically gut that structure and start all over again with a rebuild of the roof line and things. It's very 1950s vintage. And it's all wood structure, so it's probably time to look at something. So that's an option that's in there. Prescott Park, roadway, irrigation, pond relining. All you can see the other projects on here, they're pretty much really deferred maintenance. And in some cases, you know, like with lighting, it's security-driven kinds of things that we didn't have lighting to either. The goal of the grant program is to extend the opportunities for play beyond normal sunlight. So putting lighting into facilities would allow us to extend them, then it makes them eligible for the grant program. So expanding any of our use, those kinds of things would be helpful. So these are the projects, and I'll let the committee members say anything that they like about them. But what I would like from you all is to take this, take a look at it, maybe go around, look at these sites, and tell us what you think. The important elements here, don't worry about the grant part of it. Worry about what we want to deliver to the community, because this will become part of our leisure assessment in the grand plan for down the road. It may not happen in the next couple of years, but at least we'll have a plan that can be part of the leisure assessment. That's it.
Great. Any questions?
Is there a time frame that you're looking for feedback? Is it something that, I mean, it's kind of hard to, with the leisure assessment, right? We hear what the community is saying. What kind of feedback and when are you looking for this?
So again, they're going to be, the grant deadlines will be our driving force.
Okay.
So the only grant deadline that I know about today is February for
Okay.
the resource grant, which we will be applying for the barn project for that. That's pretty much where we are. We have 2 organizations willing to donate money towards that project, so that kicks it way up on the priority list.
Okay.
And just so you know, my number that I've thrown at the groups, or that I will be throwing at the groups, is $750,000 in commitment from them. That would fund the 0.7 million, or the 1.7, it'll fund the 1.7 part of it. And then, the million, either we come up via the grant or we look at developer fees so that we can move that part of the project forward. And we'll let you know as more grant information becomes available.
Thank you.
But ideally, by next meeting, you want us to have.
Next meeting, would like this back, yes. And if you want to go out and look at these places, then we'd be happy to go out with you.
Thank you.
I use we in the collective sense since it's me
Not
now.
you?
And, maybe Ryan, maybe Scott, maybe somebody, we never know.
Well, I definitely like that idea of going out with you guys. I was thinking myself, okay, well, I could put together a map and drive around and take some time to do that. Would it be, I have a suggestion. What if we just said, you have whomever it is you would like to take us on a tour, and we'll set a time, or maybe 2 times, and we can vote on which of those 2 times, as long as it's not a Monday morning or a Friday or a Sunday. Monday afternoon through Thursday afternoon, I can pretty much rearrange my schedule.
Let me have Sheila look at calendars and see what's out there. Maybe we can send out a couple of date options for you. And yeah, we'll try and set something up.
I like that idea, because it's important. I think this is important, and we should do it.
Yes.
Well, I'll excuse myself because I'm not available in the day, so I'll go on my own.
Are you?
I'm back working.
Okay, good, excellent, thank you. Informational reports.
Everybody have a chance to read the report?
Yes.
Any questions? This is the slow time of the year, so
Yeah, there's only 2 pages and a
it was
half.
abbreviated. It was the abbreviated version.
I actually not only read it, but I asked my accountant wife to answer some questions, and so I even understand it. As much as a liberal arts language guy can do that.
Yeah, so Dennis isn't with us today. He's actually at a state parks off-highway vehicle grant meeting in Southern California for 2 days. So he'll be back tomorrow. But I think the only main point is the 7.7%, I think it says, don't get really excited about that. That's just because, costs will be coming in this month before the report was done, so.
Are we still down a ranger position?
No, all our positions are filled right now. We actually have 7 ranger positions.
Okay.
3 full-time, 4 32, and then we have a 19-hour-a-week security aide position, so.
Okay. I noticed that in the budget, there seemed to be some in there, and I just, going through and seeing on that last page that the city rangers are continuing to help with the makeshift camps that they find in our community. As I travel in other communities and notice the challenges that a lot of surrounding areas are facing, I feel that we are not yet facing as many challenges as many communities that I've been to. And from my perspective, I see a lot of that coming from our rangers because I see them interacting with folks in our neighborhood and evidence like this where they do the cleanup, and I'm just so grateful for that because it is in our backyard, and these are huge challenges that everybody's grappling with, and how to approach it is so tricky, but they're doing a great job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll pass that on to them. And yes, the bulk of municipal code enforcement in the downtown area falls to them. And unfortunately, and I keep emphasizing to them that that's an important job, but we also have the job of the rest of the park system,
Right.
that we need to make sure that we allocate our resources accordingly.
Right.
But, yeah, and there's been some new challenges they're facing. For example, the police department is understaffed. They're short officers and they're trying to recruit more. So there are those times when the rangers actually end up making an arrest, and that arrest has to go to Santa Barbara. And that would pull at least one city officer off the street to take them to the jail. If there's more than 2 arrestees, then it's 2 officers that go down. So we started a program in January where, at the police chief's request, that if the 3rd arrestee is one of our arrestees, that we would send an officer down with the police officer making the 2. And we're kind of in a beta test of that right now. There are some issues and some concerns with that plan, but so far it's gone okay. We've done it a few times. Yeah, and so there are other, that pulls that officer out for at least 3 hours on a 6-hour shift if they're a 32-hour officer. So, could put them into overtime. It all depends on when this happens. And we're also, if our arrestee requires medical treatment, they have to go to Marion. Again, that would typically be a police officer taking them to Marion. Now the police officer will transport them to Marion, but we will actually remain on the Marion site with that person until they're cleared or medically cleared or whatever else is done with them. So we're getting into we've avoided being in the transport business of actually moving prisoners ourselves. But apparently those days are going to be gone. The police just don't have the resources to deal with it, and unfortunately, as you said, the homeless issue is pretty big, and so we're constantly making contacts during the day with individuals in the evenings too. But I would say that's probably 70% of what the Rangers are doing now.
Question. The transport issue, because it is such a big safety liability issue and our rangers are not armed.
Correct.
Is that going to change?
That's a concern that they've brought up. I will quote the police chief when he says, once the cuffs are on, the danger is dramatically reduced. So,
Is that practiced in other departments that have city rangers that they transport?
the only other ranger-type programs that I know of in the immediate area either do not transport or they're armed. So, closest thing to it we have here is the San Luis Harbor Police. They're trained with our officers, they go to the same training, we have the same trainer, but they are armed. And they're armed because of the response time for the sheriff's office to get to Avila, to their harbor. So that's one of the significant differences. In here, the logic has been that an officer is really only a few minutes away, 2 to 3 minutes away. So the need for them to be armed is not risen to that level. You never know, We had escapees from Marion before.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Comments? Okay. Noteworthy activities.
And you have that report too.
Yes.
I enjoyed the judging of the lights. I've done it 2 years in a row with 2 lovely ladies who helped me do that. We had a good time.
Thank you for picking my street.
Yes, I wanted you.
Commissioner Batterson actually at Kiwanis actually paid a fine for having her house identified as the Norman Rockwell house, so.
That was beautiful, just
It was gorgeous.
breathtaking.
And neither of us knew that it was your
No.
house.
Oh.
I
So
had no clue.
That works.
It was alarming when we found out. It was like, uh-oh, is this going to be an issue? But you guys did an amazing job.
We didn't know at first it was our house either. So they had another name on it.
Really?
Yeah, but one of the things we talked about was, we have a solid answer for each of the categories. We had already agreed before we got out of the car, but we didn't know who we were going to give the Norman Rockwell to. Yours was the last house we looked at, so.
And the woman told us, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name.
Jeanette?
Jeanette. She
Jeanette.
was darling. She said, okay, we still need the Norman Rockwell. And
Yeah.
we looked at each other like, okay, let's, not in a million years thinking that would be it, but it was like a gift. It was amazing.
We enjoyed it. Okay, so director's report.
I don't really have too much to tell you, so I think we're pretty good. Let me just tell you a little bit about the administrative structure right now, since we're on an interim basis. So those supervisors that were reporting to Jim directly will, hopefully, at some point in time, will actually be able to get a meeting together. They'll be reporting to me. That would be Scott and Roy Teniente, Ryan Heath, and Gabriel Velasco. Those are the 4 supervisors that were reporting to Jim. Dennis is covering the recreation side, so those supervisors are Cindy Hoskins, Jason Davey. That's it, just those 2. Report directly to Dennis. And we'll be in this structure probably until July, while the city levels out all of its payouts and things that it needs to do. And we are talking with Human Resources about the structure for the department heretofore. And so we expect some changes coming down from there. As you know, maybe you don't know, but the Public Works Director retired in December. So now the Assistant City Manager is now the Interim Public Works Director.
My goodness.
And still doing the Assistant City Manager job. And he's also the Director of Information Technology, so he's got 3 hats to wear. So the city's kind of in a nebulous position right now. So anyway, but I know these guys do a great job, and ladies, because it's Cindy, it's, I think they'll do a great job, and we'll move on with things.
Keep moving forward.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, any official business done by any of us?
I don't remember, Vance.
I did, you know what I did on New Year's, was the New Year's hike at Los Flores Ranch?
Oh, did you?
Oh my gosh.
There's about 100 people there, they
There were
said.
so many people this year, and this year there was like an advanced one too, which was really cool. There weren't very many people on it, so it was fun. It was the funnest day. I highly recommend it. There's like the kids one, that's just like 2 miles, I think, and then there's the next level, and then it was the funnest day. But the advanced one went on places that you don't normally get to go.
Nice.
So that was but it was a great day.
Good. And and it's just so luscious out there right now, with the rain, green
Couldn't be prettier.
everywhere.
Yes.
It's a little muddy in places, but, yeah, the environment makes up for it.
Yep.
We've been going to the parks a lot. It's vacation time, so we've been hopping around, and they look great. They're, the bathrooms, because we always
to end up in the
immediately,
bathroom?
let's go visit those. Everything's in great shape, and they're being heavily used too. The parks are just, the kids are out and playing, and it's great. So it's nice to see that with the heavy use, everything's still in
Maintained.
tip-top shape.
We'll pass that on too, thank you.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of compliments on Buena Vista.
Yes.
Yep.
I know Dennis is still working on art pieces. There's still 2 art pieces for Buena Vista that haven't been installed yet. So I think the guy who did one of them was actually caught, his studio was in the fire up in Paradise, that area in Chico. So I think he either lost part of his studio or something. So we gave him a dispensation to be a little late on his delivery.
Any updates on when that will be going to council? Have we heard anything else as far as the arts master plan?
It's just a timing thing for us. I think we want to wait for the new council to get going. Next week is appointments, I believe.
Yes.
Appointments at the next meeting. And then, so I would say probably try to shoot for the first meeting in March timeframe.
Okay.
We'll see. And then, so that brings up the fact that next meeting will be the seating of the new commission once all the commissioners get appointed. So, and I think that's it. Yeah, so that's just part of the information on,
Alex, was that on
Alex.
purpose?
It had nothing to do with that. I don't know how that was, so I'm figuring they probably sent it to me or something. And, but then that would be kind of thinking that they printed up 10,000 of these or 50,000 of these and sent them out with my name on them. This is really in the packet to talk about the fact that lighting, they know that lighting is something that the state wants to fund, and so they're getting their information out hot and heavy. Musco actually is the company that we have used for lighting. They are probably one of the largest lighting companies. Their name came up in our electrical meeting today. So probably somebody that we would be looking at for any of those lighting projects that we talk about.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you all for participating, and I will close this at 5:04 PM.